what we're going to look at today is a bit more JavaScript from what we had before, but it's actually not more JavaScript at all. The JavaScript that's in here, you've already seen. But we're just we're wrapping it up in a bit more logic to make something a bit more complicated. So you already saw, if I can put my hand on it, we already saw you doing a thing with the coins, didn't we? We're flipping the coins, and if you get coins to either heads or tails, and if you got two, whatever, you won a prize. If you or else you didn't. This is more of the same, or it's the same, only more. So in this case, rather than a coin having two faces, we have slots. So you can have a bar, or a cherry, or a lemon, or a pear. So there are 4 possibilities instead of 2. And instead of just 2 coins, we've got 3, so we're doing it 3 times. But the logic is exactly the same. So you randomly decide you generate a random number, which gives you the picture that you're going to use for the first one. And you generate a random number for the second one, and the picture you're going to use for the second one. You generate a random number for the third one, which gives you a picture for the third one. And then you just change all the images to what they should be. You look at the random numbers to see if the person won a prize, and if they did, you say if you do, you won a prize. So, oh, okay, I won a prize. I'm not sure what the logic is for how you win a prize in this. That doesn't look great. Well, it's a particularly generous slot machine. We'll look at the logic in a minute and see what you have to do to win. Oh, well, okay, that's fair enough. Bars are wild, I would think. So that's genuinely a prize. Whoa, I can't lose. I'm on a roll today. Okay. I assure you this program works, and I'm just really, really lucky. Okay. So, yeah, it's okay. So you win or you lose, depending. So, what do you think is the first thing we do? Let's say we just want to generate this first image here. How do we go about that? We're going to start with a random number, aren't we? And how many random numbers are there? 4. We need 4 possible values. So it would make sense maybe to go 0, 1, 2, or 3. Yeah? So how would we generate a number between 0 and... So how would we generate a number that's 0, 1, or 2, or 3? What's the first step? What does math.random give us? Yeah, it gives you a real number between 0 and 1. How would we get then from there to a real number between 0 and 4, say? We multiply it by 4. So we'll take the random number, what the random number generator gives us, and we'll multiply it by 4. So now we'll have a number between 0 and 4, but not quite 4 ever. To convert that, real number then, between 0 and 4, to 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, we need to round it, don't we? Now if we round it up, what would happen? What could we get? If we only do, well, if we do round, what possible values could we get? We get 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, because it could rounds up or down, whichever is nearest. If we do ceiling, we could get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Now there are times you want to go from 1 to 4. If we do floor, it'll round down and give us 0, 1, or 2, or 3, which is probably what we're going to do in this program. So then we have our random number, which let's say it's 2. And let's say 2 is the pair. We need to go from that number to the pair. If we were cute, we might have called the images fruit 0, fruit 1, and fruit 2, and fruit 3. And then we could take that 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, stick it onto fruit, and have like fruit2.jpg. In this case, it's clear that we didn't do that. So we're going to have to say, well, if x is 1, then the file name is, you know, cherry.jpg. If x is 0, then file name is bar.jpg. Else if x is 1, it's cherry. It's something like that. And then we'll modify the first image here so that its source matches the source of the object we've created that has pair.jpg. So let's go have a look at that. Let's see if the code actually matches what we thought it might. So the spin function generates a random number between 0 and 1. That's a real number. In multiplying it by 4, we give ourselves a random number between 0 and 4. That's an integer. So it could be something like 3.2167943. Something like that. Floor rounds down. Ceiling rounds up, and rounds up or down depending on which is closest. So floor will always round down. So that'll give us 0 or 1 or 2 or 3. Here we're creating a new image object and we're calling it spin slot 1. And then we're saying if random 1 equals 0, then spin slot 1.source equals bar.jpg. If it's 1, it's going to be cherry.jpg. If it's 2, it's going to be lemon.jpg. And if it's 3, it's going to be pear.jpg. Now we have a name, we have an image tag down there, we'll see in the code later, that has a name slot 1. So we're saying now here, in this document, there's an image called slot 1. We want to change its source property so that it's the same as spin slot 1's source property. So that's how we did the rollover. And we had like good Colin and evil Colin. That's those are the steps we took to do the rollover. And we do that long way round so that when we make the change, they're all there and handy. So it's pretty much like doing the rollover, except what we're going to change to depends on what the random number threw up. And then we do that 3 times. Once for each of the slots. So this time around we have random 3, which we're multiplying by 4. We're flooring that, creating a new image object called spin slot 3, and then we're assigning to its source bar, cherry, lemon, or pear.jpg.
Spin slot 3 and spin slot 2, so you didn't initialize them, did you?
They're not, well, yes, here. We create the image object there. So we're creating a new image object there, which we then modify the source of. Like we did with the rollover. Let's have a look then at the logic of it. So here, basically you win if you get a bar anywhere. That's kind of crappy. But that's the logic that's in this one. So if there's a bar in slot 1, or a bar in slot 2, or a bar in slot 3, you win a prize. Which actually makes the chances of winning quite high. Now, for a more realistic slot machine, you'd have to do things like, well, if they're all the same, you win a prize. Or if 2 are the same and 1 is a bar, then you win a prize, because you can make the bars wild. With this one, you just win if you get any bars at all anyway. So we have here in this div here, we've given it the ID, some text, and then we're saying in this document, the thing that's called some text, get element by ID, is your friend. You use it a lot in JavaScript. So the thing that's called some text, we're going to change its inner HTML property to yippee-doo. It says yippee, yes, sorry. I was exaggerating. I'm so enthusiastic. Or, if you don't win, you say sorry, you lose. So you should get to grips with something like this. Maybe I could give you this example and you could extend the logic of it or something. I would anticipate that your exam, and I think it's going to be exam now at this stage rather than a project, would be something like this. Something along these lines. So it's important to understand how this works. What other ways could we have changed the images? There's 2 other ways I can think of where you could change those images. Well, instead of these here, instead of giving those names, you do document.slot3. You could have given them IDs and got the image objects using their IDs, using getElementById. And that would amount to the same thing. Another way, which I think is much easier but isn't as elegant as, if you look here at the div tag, you see the way this div here has some HTML inside it, and you use the inner HTML property of that div in order to change the HTML that's inside it. Well, that HTML could be an image tag too. So what some people like to do when they want to change the image on the page is they wrap it up in a div or a span or whatever, and then when they want to change the image, they rewrite the inner HTML so it is the HTML for the image tag that they want. That's probably not very sophisticated, but it sure as hell gets the job done. Are there any questions on that? I can see from your faces that most of you have lost the will to live. But this is the exciting world of JavaScript. Sorry, no, but this is it for you. This is as exciting as your lives are going to get. This is really cool in terms of the kinds of things you can do in HTML. If you don't find this exciting, do something else. Do recreation and leisure. Okay. So you can see how you could do various things with that. An obvious kind of twist on that would be a card game. How might a game of Snap look like? What might Snap look like? Just changing, so you're changing the cards, you've got two cards. And if they're equal to each other, yeah. So if you're doing something like that, it would be important to maybe name the cards. If you've got 52 cards, here we had only 4 images. If you had 52 cards, you know, if you're saying if thingy is, you know, thingy is 0, then it's, you know, well, if thingy is 0, then it's an ace of spades. If it's a 1, then it's a 2 of spades. If it's a 3, then it's a 2 of spades. That would be too long. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you would name the JPEGs in such a way that you could construct the name of the image file in the code. So just as here we might have done fruit0.jpg, fruit1.jpg, fruit2.jpg, and so on. You might want to do something with cards. You might say, I don't know, you might have card 0, 1. The first digit might be the suit. You know? And so you might have like 0 for spades, 1 for clubs, 2 for hearts, 3 for diamonds, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 after that. Of course, you would run out though. Well, yeah, you could use H, S, D, C as well. But you might decide that the first, you might have 1 digit for the suit and 1 digit for the card number. Because you're going to run out of card numbers as well, because you can only go up to 9. Well, no, you could go, you've got 0 as well. But for like the Jack, Queen, and King, because there's 13 cards in the suit, you'd run out. You probably wouldn't want to have something like card H12, because then that's going to be longer and screw up everything. But maybe you would do something like that. It's up to you. So you'd want some sort of naming convention for your cards that would make life easier and that you could construct the card name. It would be hard also to preclude the possibility of the same card coming up twice. You might get a Jack of Diamonds and a Jack of Diamonds again, which in reality wouldn't happen. But if you're generating them randomly, the cards could come up the same twice. If you wanted to prevent the same card coming up twice, you might need some sort of array where you actually pluck out the cards. But a simple thing to do might be to just, if they two of them the same, just throw again. You know, pick a new one. How about a dice game? How might a dice game work? How many possibilities do you have when you throw a die? 6. So you might go from 0 to 5, and your dice might be 0.jpg, 1.jpg, 2.jpg. But that could get confusing if your 0 was actually your 1 and your 2 was actually your 3. So you might decide to name them, you know, 1.jpg, 2.jpg, 3.jpg, 4.jpg, 5.jpg, 6.jpg. And then when you generate your random numbers, just make sure you generate a random number from 1 to 6 instead of 0 to 5. How would you generate a random number between 1 and 6? You generate the random number, which gives you a random number between 0 and 1. You're going to have 6 possibilities. So multiply by 6. Then what do you do? Yeah, so one way would be to round it up to ceiling. So then they'll round up to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. You could also round down, and you'd have 0, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and then just add 1 to it. That's what a lot of people would do. Either way would work fine. And then you can imagine a scenario where, like, I don't know, what's that game? What's it called? Craps or something, where you throw dice and you have to get a 7 or something, and you win. Something like that. So you could add up the values and see if you win. So a couple of different possibilities there. You could, for example, in here, in addition to saying yippee, you could insert an image tag that had a picture of some money, for example. And so if you win, it doesn't just say yippee, you get money. That could be cute. Actually, let's just see if I can do that. I'm very wary of programming live in class because it always goes horribly wrong. But if I have an image of some money there, it would be interesting to do. You could win a Colin. Okay, look, let's imagine this is a picture of some money. Okay, when I'm king of the world, I'll be on the money. And we're going to, when you win, we're going to attempt to insert here an actual image tag in the HTML. So instead of saying you won, we're going to say, so instead of saying yippee, we're going to say something like img src equals, now bear with me there now for a second. I'm going to be bold and I'm going to not include the width and the height and the alt, just so we can see it working. The name of the image file is colingood.jpg. Now, we need to sort out then what's missing here now. When we did this, one of the first things we did when we displayed the images, remember we had the random image? What's wrong with this picture, so to speak? No.
You're going to need one for when you lose.
Let's just say we'll say what you lose when you lose. That'll be okay. What's wrong with this? Yeah, no, apart from that. There's an issue with the quotations. We want to output img src equals quote colingood.jpg quote / close bracket. Yeah, but the problem is that this quote here would be the end of the string. Yes, so we need to put in an escape. And escape that one. And let's see if that works. I'm very wary, like I said, of coding live in class. Okay, so sorry, use, fair enough. What's but now I won't be able to win. I used up all my luck earlier in the class. Yeah, clearly I did. There we go. Okay. So you could see how, if that was a picture of money, as opposed to me, I don't know how much you'd get for me. You know, $1 million for a night with Colin. You know, I'd say I'd have to pay you. No. So you could, if that was a picture of money, you could see how that'd be a nice simulation of. Oh no, you can't get rid of me. Okay. Of a slot machine. Okay. Is there any questions in that? So I'd like you to look at that in the labs and experiment with that and see how that works. I can give you some, to save you time, I can give you some images of cards and dice and things if you want. You can put them on the block. And just see what you can do. So it's generating a random number based on that random number, displaying the correct images. And then you have some logic where you decide whether you've won or not. So, you know, if you got 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, if you got a full house, if you got, you know, do the dice add up to 7? Is there a wild card in there? And then maybe displaying a prize if you've won. You could even have a small prize and a jackpot prize for a big prize or something. So I want you to experiment with that kind of thing in the labs. So any questions on any of that? So it might be worth talking a tiny little bit now about the assignment 2. At this stage, you want to be making your life simple rather than complicated. Unless, what, the deadline's not already gone, is it? No. Okay. Otherwise, that'd be very simple. So you want to be making your life simple. I mean, There's no reason why you can't have your 3-column layout and reuse that for all your pages, or even just take away, just don't use one of the 3 columns and maybe leave that out, and everything else will still, you know, fall into place and still look good. You definitely don't want 5 totally different pages with 5 totally different CSS files going with them. First of all, it's a requirement that you have one CSS file. But what you don't want then is 5 CSS files where you just put them all in the one file and have one after the other, which is the same thing. So like, the whole point of CSS is that you design the style and then you apply that to all the different pages, and you only have to do it once. Some people are making their lives very difficult by making 5 completely different websites and sticking them together. Way too much work. Also, I did give you a working 3-column layout. Many people chose not to use it, which is fair enough. But if you're struggling at this stage, well, for the love of God, just go take mine and get on with it. Okay? You don't have time at this stage in the product life cycle to be realizing your vision of what the website, you know, might look like. You want to just get it done now and get the marks and pass the module. Anything else? Make sure you read the minimum requirements and make sure you've met all the minimum requirements. Yes?
You know when you save the forms, you're
Yep.
supposed to give us
A URL, yeah, yeah.
Where is that?
Where is that? That's in the example with the forms. Let me show you that if I can connect up to the network. Yeah. Let me just connect up to the network and I'll show you where that is. Also, you want to be getting your Dropbox sorted if you haven't done so already, because you'll be wallowing away in obscurity. You could probably say, I forgot my password, and it'll email you one. Go to Dropbox and see what the forgot password is. You obviously believe the speech about having more than one password for security reasons. Few of us did. No. It should be here on the examples. Maybe I forgot to put it there. Slides and examples. Your form should look something like, well, your form shouldn't look anything like this, but the code would look something like this. We had a class anyway on forms, sure. We'll be all in there. This is the URL that you need. So your form thing would look like that. No, it's also absolutely vital that you ensure that your page validates. So you go to validator.w3.org. You need to validate it as XHTML 1.0 strict or HTML5. I recommend XHTML 1.0 strict, but HTML5 is fine too. It must validate. All of those minimum requirements are minimum requirements for you in order to pass. Missing any one of those is a deal breaker. So if you have CSS in your HTML file, deal breaker, game over, you fail that assignment. If it doesn't validate, that's a deal breaker. You're going to fail. So I'm worried that there are people out there who are worrying about what particular shade of pink should be behind some particular piece of text, and it doesn't validate, or there's CSS in the file or something. You need to go through the minimum requirements and be absolutely certain that you've met them all. Any one of those is a deal breaker. By the same token, if you meet all the minimum requirements and it's the most hideous, god-awful web page that was ever designed, you're still going to pass. So there's, you know, pros and cons to that approach. Go through the minimum requirements, make sure you've met them all. If you have, yip-de-doo. Okay. So any questions? If you're way behind, go get my 3-column layout and start with that. Okay. Now, I will be meeting each of you then, and you're going to talk me through your assignment and how you did it and stuff. If you can't talk about how you did it, that's going to be a problem. Okay? So if you get someone else to do it for you, or if you take someone else's and just change a few things around, the chances of getting caught would be high-ish. You know?
Is
Yes,
that
sir.
basically just talking through your CSS? So
Yeah. Yes, sir.
No uploading to Dropbox, because
Yep.
upload all the files for just the home page.
No, everything. It won't look right without all of them. Okay, so upload everything to Dropbox. So you need to upload everything to Dropbox before the deadline. If you haven't set up a Dropbox yet, you know, you want to get a move on. Also, you want to go to that website using the link I emailed you and pick a time to come meet me. Like, I kind of try and get through 3 people per hour. You wanna do that. Pick a time, unless you want the graveyard shift. And yeah, so it's kind of in some respects it's a no-brainer to pass this particular assignment. Just do those things. No, they're not trivial things. I mean, that CSS is tricky stuff. Most stuff I saw seemed to people were doing fine. But concentrate on the minimum requirements and make sure you've met each and every one of them. There aren't many, but any one of those is a deal breaker. Also be wary of sites that offer to validate your CSS, validate your HTML, and then if there's a problem, fix it for you. Because some of those I've seen, they put in CSS into the HTML file. So it would be bad enough you doing it, but you missing out on that requirement because some machine did it for you would be even worse. Okay, so just be careful of that. The validation can be a pain in the arse, so make a start on that fairly quickly. You'll figure out fairly quickly what you need to do to appease the validation beast, and you'll be on your way then. Okay? Is there any questions on any of that?
Is it right that the map?
The math, yes. The map screws up the validation. So the page that has the map on it won't validate. That puts you in a tricky position though, because if you have crappy HTML in that page, you need to fix that. You know, it can be only the map that causes it to fail. If you have other stuff in there, then, you know, that's your problem. So you need to be able to see the difference between those. But generally the map page won't validate.
8 hours.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you could write to Google and tell them, like, you know, to cop themselves on, but, you know, they are Google. You know. Yeah. Anyone else? Any other questions? So get that sorted now. I mean, that assignment, most of you have the work done, so don't blow it all now on some small little thing that you missed. So go through it, or even go through each other's and make sure that, you know, you can audit each other's assignments. You know, I see some of you may be doing that already. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, so guys, I'll see you in the labs anyway.